The city was already awake before the sun had fully risen. Car horns, footsteps, and hurried voices filled the streets, but YN walked quietly among them, clutching her small handbag and trying to balance the coffee cup in her other hand. Her uniform was slightly faded, her shoes old but clean. She had learned long ago that looking decent was a silent shield against pity. Uni, don't forget my lunchbox, a tiny voice called from behind the door of their small rented room. YN turned back, smiling softly. I won't, Unha, finish your milk, okay? Her little sister, barely 7, peeked out with her messy hair and sleepy eyes. That one small face was the reason YN woke up every day, even when her heart still carried the heavy ache of losing their parents in the accident. Once, she had been the kind of girl who laughed easily, who believed in dreams and friendship. Now, her world was survival, and Unha's smile was her only luxury. The bell above the convenience store door jingled as YN entered. You're late, her boss barked from behind the counter, without even looking up. I'm sorry, sir. The bus, excuses, he snapped, tossing carton toward her. Stack these before the customers come in. And don't waste time standing around. YN bit her lip, nodded, and got to work. She was used to this tone, it didn't hurt anymore. Nothing really did, except the thought of Mina getting sick or hungry. She worked quietly, arranging cans, greeting customers with a polite smile, and stealing glances at the clock. She had tutoring after this job, an hour with a neighbor's child. That barely paid enough for rent, but every rupee counted. On the other side of the city, in a massive glass-walled mansion, Jungkook stood before the mirror, fixing his tie. His reflection looked perfect, black suit, silver watch, expression cold enough to match his father's. Downstairs, his parents were already arguing. You can't just waste your time with nonsense sketches. His father's voice thundered. You'll take over the company, Jungkook. End of discussion. His mother sighed. Please, not again, I said end of discussion. Jungkook's jaw tightened. He picked up his sketchpad, half-drawn faces, lyrics, a messy reflection of his thoughts, and shoved it into his bag. He left the house without a word. In the car, the driver asked softly, Sir, office or studio today? Office, Jungkook said coldly, then after a pause added, studio later. His voice carried the exhaustion of someone who lived two lives, the one his parents forced, and the one he secretly craved. The only thing that kept him breathing was Angela, the girl who made him believe love was real. That he didn't know she loved his lifestyle more than him. As the day went on, YN wiped the counter and looked outside. The world was so big, yet she felt invisible in it. At that same moment, Jungkook stood in his father's office window, staring at the same streets, the same city. Two people, worlds apart, both silently fighting battles no one cared to see. One was trying to survive, and the other was trying to feel alive. It was one of those chilly evenings when the city lights flickered like distant stars, and Jungkook's thoughts were too heavy for the world around him. He was driving back from the office, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other tapping against it restlessly. He was exhausted, not just from work, but from pretending every single day that he was fine. Pretending that the suffocating meetings and the fake smiles of business parties didn't make him feel empty. He decided to take a different route home that night, through the quieter streets near the art studio where he sometimes painted in secret. That's when he saw her. Through the glass window of a cozy little cafe, sat Angela, the girl he loved more than anyone in this world. The girl who made him believe that maybe love could fix the holes in his heart, but his breath caught in his throat when he saw what she was doing. Angela was kissing another man. It wasn't just a friendly gesture, it was passionate, intimate, like she didn't belong to Jungkook anymore. The cup of coffee in his hand slipped, shattering onto the pavement. His heart felt like it did the same. He stormed inside, eyes burning with fury and disbelief. Angela, are you really doing this shit? His voice trembled, not from fear, but from heartbreak. Angela froze for a second, guilt flashing in her eyes. Then, she leaned back casually in her chair as if nothing had happened. The man beside her, easily in his mid-30s, expensive suit, smug face, looked Jungkook up and down. Come on, babe, he said lazily, tell him the truth. You're with him for his money, right? Now you've got me, you don't need this kid anymore. Jungkook's fists clenched, his chest rising and falling with rage. What the hell did you just say? He growled, taking a step closer. Angela looked between the two men. For a moment, there was silence, and then, she smiled. That same soft smile she once used to melt Jungkook's heart, now felt like poison. Yes, Daddy, you're right, she said, her tone turning sugar sweet. I don't need him anymore. Jungkook, you're just someone who fulfilled my requirements. A rich kid controlled by his parents. You think you're strong, but you can't even live your own life. Her words hit him like knives. I'm sorry, she continued, tilting her head, but I'm not interested in his lifestyle now. He's independent, confident, not some boy living under mommy and daddy's shadow. So please, forget me. Oh wait, she smirked. You probably can't, right? After all, no girl wants a guy who lives two lives. If anyone ever stays with you, it's only because of your lifestyle, not love. Jungkook stood frozen. His chest felt tight, his mind numb. Every memory, every moment, every "I love you now" felt like a cruel joke. The man stood up, wrapping his arm around Angela's waist. Go home, kiddo, he said smugly. She's mine now. That was the last straw. Jungkook's fist connected with the man's jaw before he could even blink. The sound echoed through the cafe, sharp, final. The man stumbled, wiping blood from his lip, his expression twisting with anger. He tried to fight back, but Jungkook was faster, stronger, his pain turning into raw power. Chairs fell, people gasped. But Jungkook didn't care. He only stopped when the man groaned and stepped back, glaring. I forgive you, kid, the man said bitterly, grabbing Angela's hand. You're not worth it. They walked out together, Angela clinging to him, like she hadn't just shattered the heart of the man who loved her beyond words. Jungkook stood there, chest heaving, hands trembling, his world, the only part of it that ever felt real, was gone. He didn't even notice the tears slipping down his face, all he could feel was the weight of betrayal, pressing against his chest until it was hard to breathe. For the first time in years, Jungkook had no idea who he was anymore. The night sky was heavy, clouds swallowing the moonlight, as Jungkook drove aimlessly through the streets. His knuckles were white around the steering wheel, his mind echoing Angela's words again and again, no one will ever love you. They only love your lifestyle. He laughed bitterly, his voice breaking in the silence. Lifestyle, huh, guess that's all I am then. He stopped the car in front of an old building, the small, hidden studio he had built for himself years ago. It was his secret world. The only place that wasn't owned or designed by his parents. Just him, his music, his paint. And his pain. As he entered, the smell of turpentine and half-finished art filled the air. The walls were covered with canvases, colors screaming what words couldn't. He threw his phone on the floor, his jacket following after, then he stood in front of a blank canvas. For a few seconds, he just stared at it, and then the tears came. Slow at first, then uncontrollable. He picked up the brush, dipped it in dark paint, and began to move his hand wildly across the surface. Red, black, blue, every stroke felt like a scream. Every color a piece of his heartbreak, his tears mixed with the paint, dripping down the canvas like blood. Painting had always been his escape, but tonight, it was his lifeline. Why, Angela, he whispered, voice trembling. I gave you everything. He painted until dawn, until his body was exhausted. And his heart was empty. The final piece showed a broken man, half in light, half in shadow, reaching for someone who wasn't there. On the other side of the city, another battle was being fought, quieter, but just as painful. Wyan adjusted her apron, her hands aching from stacking boxes all day. Her paycheck had already been divided in her mind, half for rent, half for Eunha's school fees, and a little for groceries. There was nothing left for herself, but that didn't matter. When she reached home, her little sister Eunha ran to her, wrapping her small arms around Wyan's waist. Uni, look. I drew you and me. Wyan smiled tiredly and knelt down. The drawing was messy, two stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun, but to her, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. It's perfect, Eunha, she whispered, kissing her forehead. Later that night, when Eunha had fallen asleep, Wyan sat by the small window, looking at the city lights. Somewhere out there, people were living their dreams, and here she was, fighting her fate, just trying to survive another day. But she wasn't bitter, she was tired, yes, but not broken. She looked at the stars and whispered, please, just let her have a better life than mine. A month passed, the world moved on, as it always does, but inside both Jungkook and Wyan, time felt frozen. Jungkook stopped smiling. He stopped talking to people. He buried himself in work and painting, pretending he didn't feel empty. Wyan kept working, saving every penny, skipping meals when needed. Life didn't offer her much, but she refused to let it take her hope. Two souls, one drowning in heartbreak, the other in responsibility, both fighting silently. In the same city, unaware that destiny was slowly pulling their paths together. The gold embossed invitation card lay on Jungkook's table like an insult. Park Miho's annual gala. He didn't even need to check the guest list to know Angela. Would be there, her kind of crowd, rich, fake, shallow, and loud. For a moment, a dry, humorless laugh escaped his lips. Oh, of course, he muttered under his breath. Of course she'll be there. Probably flaunting her new sponsor, acting like the queen of a world built on lies. He leaned back on the couch, running a hand through his hair, eyes burning with a quiet, consuming fire, the kind that doesn't die. The kind that turns pain into fuel. He didn't want to go, but he had to, not for her, but for himself. He wanted Angela to see him again, not as the man she broke, but as the man she could never reach now. He wanted her to look at him and regret. To see the strength in his eyes and realize she'd lost something rare. All right, Angela, he said quietly, almost like a promise. You'll see who you lost. That thought had been his heartbeat for 3 days straight. From the moment he received that card, he became a man with one mission: revenge through perfection. Every morning, he woke before sunrise. Every night, he trained until exhaustion numbed the ache inside. His workouts weren't just for strength, they were for control, over his body, his pain, his rage. Every rep burned with one memory of her betrayal. He'd changed everything: his style, his habits, his posture, his aura. The soft, boyish edges were gone. What stood in their place was someone sharp, disciplined, and dangerously composed. He no longer looked like a boy in love, he looked like a man who didn't need anyone. Now, the morning of the party had arrived. Golden sunlight filtered through his curtains, dancing across the marble floor of his apartment. The room smelled faintly of cologne and freshly brewed coffee. Jungkook sat on the edge of his bed, shirtless, muscles defined and taut, a towel draped around his neck. The veins on his forearms caught the light as he rested his elbows on his knees, deep in thought. He was fully transformed. The pain was still there, buried deep, but he'd learned to wear it like armor. Still, something felt missing. He had the looks, the power, the aura. But none of it felt like enough. He needed more than just an entrance. He needed a moment that would shatter her ego. He stood, pacing slowly, his mind spinning with scenarios. Should he arrive with someone on his arm? Should he act indifferent, like she's just another stranger in the crowd? Should he flirt, laugh, or pretend she doesn't even exist? Every possibility flashed in his mind, and yet, none of them satisfied that burning hunger inside him. He walked to the mirror, staring at his reflection. The man who once loved her now looked like a stranger. His jawline sharp, eyes cold, expression unreadable, and still, it wasn't enough. He gritted his teeth and whispered, I can't just walk in and smile. That's not revenge. She'll think I still care. His reflection stared back, silent but fierce. He didn't know what the night would bring, but one thing was certain: Angela would see him, and she would feel it, because tonight wasn't about love anymore, it was about fire, the fire that burns quietly after the fall. The morning air felt heavy, thick with thoughts Jungkook couldn't shake off. He'd spent the entire night staring at his ceiling, his mind looping around the same question: how do I make her regret losing me? He had the looks, the confidence, the transformation, but it still didn't feel enough. Something inside him whispered, you need something more. Frustrated, he grabbed his car keys. I need some air, he muttered, stepping out into the sunlight. He drove aimlessly, past the clean streets of his neighborhood and toward the quieter side of the city, a place where everything felt slower, smaller, and more real. Maybe a drive would clear his head, maybe he'd find the missing piece of his plan. After a while, he stopped at a small convenience store on a narrow street corner. The neon light flickered faintly over the glass door. It wasn't fancy, but he just needed a drink and a little peace. As he pushed open the door, a sharp voice cut through the silence. You careless girl. Do you even know how much that bottle costs? Jungkook paused. Behind the counter stood a young woman, head bowed, hands nervously clutched in front of her apron. She was beautiful, but not the kind of beauty you show off. There was something soft about her, fragile, pure, and worn out all at once. I'm sorry, sir, it won't happen again, she said quietly. Her voice trembling with sincerity. Her boss huffed, glaring at her. Sorry doesn't pay for losses. It's coming out of your salary. And with that, he stormed away, muttering under his breath before disappearing into the back. The girl, YN, stood there for a second, taking a shaky breath before silently returning to her work. No complaint, no anger. Just quiet endurance. Jungkook watched from the aisle, his jaw tightening. Something inside him stirred, anger, pity, maybe both. For a brief moment, he wanted to walk up to that man and break his jaw for talking to her like that, but he stopped himself. He didn't want another mess. Not today. Not when his mind was already a battlefield. He picked up a few cans of drinks and some snacks, walking toward the counter, and that's when it happened. A little girl, tiny, with bright eyes and messy hair, ran into the store, bumping right into his leg. She stumbled back and gasped, "Oh. I'm sorry, mister. I'm really sorry." Jungkook looked down at her. She couldn't be older than 6. There was something disarmingly innocent about her, like sunshine in the middle of a storm. He smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. "It's okay, little angel," he said softly. The little girl giggled and ran past him. Uni, look what I got." Jungkook turned his head, and his heart clenched a little. The same girl who'd been scolded just moments ago, Yn, looked up, and her entire expression changed when she saw the child. Her eyes softened, a real smile curving her lips. "Oh, my little angel. So good. My intelligent baby," she said, kneeling down and cupping the girl's cheeks. "Now go home and change, okay? Uni will come soon. Take care, baby. I love you. Go before that rude uncle comes back." The child, Eunha, nodded quickly, her eyes sparkling. Jungkook couldn't look away. The way Yn smiled, tired but full of warmth, hit something deep inside him. He hadn't seen such purity in years. He walked to the counter, placing his drinks down. Before Yn could scan them, Eunha came up beside her again, waving a piece of paper proudly. "Uni. Look. I got full marks in drawing." "Wow," Yn said, her eyes lighting up even more. "That's amazing, my little artist." The happiness on her face, even after everything, stunned Jungkook. How could someone still smile like that? After being humiliated minutes ago? Unable to help himself, Jungkook bent slightly and said, "Hi, little angel. Can I see your test?" Eunha looked at him for a second, then nodded, handing over her paper shyly. Jungkook scanned the childish sketches, colorful, full of imagination. He smiled, genuine this time. "Oh wow, you're a real artist. I'm sure you'll be amazing someday." Eunha's eyes lit up, and Jungkook chuckled, grabbing a few candies and chocolates from the nearby rack. "These are for the little champ," he said. Eunha hesitated, glancing up at her sister.Yn's soft smile faded a little. "No, it's okay, sir. She doesn't take anything from strangers." Jungkook met her eyes for the first time, calm, polite, yet distant. He could tell she wasn't being rude, she was being protective. "Please," he said quietly, "I just appreciate her talent." Yn hesitated, his voice didn't sound like the usual rich customers she dealt with. Finally, she sighed and nodded slightly. "Okay, just this once." Eunha grinned and took the candies, hugging them like treasure. "Thank you, mister," she chirped before skipping out the door. Yn called after her, "Take care, okay?" Before turning back toward the counter, Jungkook reached into his pocket, pulling out his wallet to pay. And for a moment, the air between them was soft, unspoken, and strangely peaceful. He didn't know her name yet, but something in him knew, this moment wasn't just coincidence. Jungkook placed the drinks and snacks on the counter, pulling out his wallet, but instead of handing over the cash right away, he looked at Yn, her tired eyes, the quiet strength behind her calm face, and said in a low, steady voice, "I'll help you, if you want." Yn blinked, confused. "Excuse me. Please don't mind," Jungkook continued, his tone smooth but thoughtful. "I don't do this for free. I mean, something's cooking in my mind." She frowned slightly, unsure what to make of his words. "What do you mean by that, sir? I don't need anyone's help." He gave a small smirk. It's not exactly help. I'll give you a better job, better than this one. Higher pay. And you won't have to listen to that rude boss anymore." Yn looked at him, surprise flickering across her face. She thought for a moment before replying softly, "I don't have a degree to work anywhere else. That's why I'm here. I left my studies halfway." Jungkook leaned a little forward, eyes glinting with something unreadable. "You don't need a degree for this one. If you agree, I'll tell you the details." She hesitated. The truth was, he wasn't wrong. Her salary barely covered rent, food, and her sister's school fees. A better paying job could make a difference. "My shift ends in an hour," she said slowly. "I'll talk to you after that, or maybe another day." "Not another day," Jungkook interrupted calmly. "I'll wait for you outside." There was something firm in his voice, not demanding, but determined. Yn simply nodded and turned away to finish her work. True to his word, Jungkook waited. He sat in his black car outside the store, watching people come and go, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. His mind wasn't restless now, it was focused. He finally had a plan. An hour later, Yn stepped out, tying her hair as she walked toward the small gate. He rolled down his window slightly. "Miss, over here." She hesitated, looking around nervously. Before walking up to the car, "Please sit," he said, voice calm but gentle. After a few seconds of hesitation, she opened the door and sat, clutching her hands together on her lap. Jungkook started the car and drove a short distance away, stopping in a quiet corner of the street. He turned to her and said, "So, miss, listen carefully." Hwan nodded, still confused but curious. "I'm in a bit of trouble," Jungkook began, eyes fixed on the steering wheel. "I just want to prove someone wrong. Or maybe, give them back what they did to me." Hwan frowned, puzzled. "I don't understand anything, sir." He gave a small sigh and looked at her. "Let me explain. I need someone who can pretend to be my girlfriend. Please don't take it the wrong way, it's just an act. You'll get paid. You just have to attend a party with me. Tonight. It's nothing complicated, just casual, and for one night." Hwan's expression shifted, half confusion, half disbelief. Jungkook quickly added, "It's not what you think. My ex cheated on me with another man, someone older, independent, and apparently a better option. She said that I was just a kid controlled by my parents, that no one would ever love me, just my lifestyle. I want to prove her wrong, just once. Show her that I've moved on. That I'm doing better without her." His voice cracked slightly on the last word, though he tried to hide it behind a calm face. "If you agree, it'll be a great favor," he continued quietly. "If not, it's fine. I'll manage. But I promise, it's a clean job, nothing bad. Just an act. You'll be safe, and I'll pay you well." Hwan stared at him for a long moment. Her thoughts raced. She needed money for the pending rent, for Eunha's school fees, for clothes she hadn't bought in months. Every responsibility flashed through her mind like a reminder. "Please think about it," Jungkook said softly. "I assure you, I mean no harm." She bit her lip, thinking hard, then finally said, "Mister, give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back." Jungkook nodded, watching silently as she stepped out of the car and walked a few steps away. She stood on the side of the street, the wind brushing against her hair, her mind caught between fear and need. It wasn't easy trusting a stranger. But there was something about him, his tone, his eyes, that didn't feel wrong. "It's just one night," she thought. "And with that money, I can finally fix a few things." After a deep breath, she turned and walked back to the car. "I'm ready, sir," she said quietly. Jungkook exhaled, a small, relieved smile touching his lips. He nodded, gripping the steering wheel. "Good. Then we have no time to waste." She looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" He turned the key, engine roaring to life. "Ma'am, we're going for your transformation." She replied softly, "Okay, sir, but I've to tell my younger sister that I'll be late at night and cook something for her. I need some time." He nodded immediately, his tone gentle. Yes, of course. "But if you don't mind, can we grab something nice and healthy to eat from a restaurant? So we won't be late. Otherwise, I can wait, it's not a big deal." Hwan hesitated for a moment before saying, "Whatever you feel is right." He smiled faintly and drove toward a nearby restaurant, ordering some healthy and delicious food for her lunch and dinner. After they got the food, he asked politely, "Miss, where is your home? Let me drive you there." Hwan quietly gave him her address. As they entered a small, narrow street, Jungkook noticed the humble surroundings, the walls worn, the roads uneven, and the little rented room. She called home. He parked the car and handed her the food. "Take your time," he said softly. "I'll wait for you here." Through the car window, he watched Hwan step inside the tiny room. It was clear life hadn't been kind to her, yet she carried herself with quiet strength. After half an hour, she came back out, neatly dressed, while her little sister, Eunha, stood at the doorway. "Uni, take care, okay? Don't worry, I'll take care of myself and sleep early. And yep, I know, don't open the gate for anyone. Bye-bye." Jungkook watched the little girl's innocence and waved lightly. Once Hwan sat back in the car, he glanced at her and asked carefully, "Miss, if you won't mind, can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Is she here alone? I mean, it's just you and her?" "I'm only asking for her safety." Hwan sighed. "Yes, we live alone." Jungkook frowned slightly. "So can she stay that long, alone at night, I mean?" Hwan looked down. "I'm scared too, it's the first time. But I don't have any other option." She said she'll be fine. Jungkook paused, thinking. "But she's just a little child. We can't take that risk. I can't let her stay out alone because of my job." "You'll bring her with you, we'll leave her with my secretary in my office. There's a room there. So she'll be safe." Hwan thought about it and realized he was right. It was safer than leaving Eunha home alone. So she brought her along. Eunha's face lit up with excitement at sitting in a real car. For the first time. When they reached Jungkook's office, he called his secretary. Miss Young, take care of this little angel. Make sure she sleeps early, and we'll be back late tonight, okay? Miss Young nodded with assurance. Watching that random man care for her sister with such sincerity made something soften in Y/N's heart. As Jungkook returned to the car, he smiled slightly. Don't worry, miss. She'll be safest here. By the way, what's your name? Y/N, she replied simply. Nice name, he said. I'm Jungkook. John Jungkook. She nodded silently. Then he took her to a designer studio. Choose an elegant outfit for tonight, he said. Without hesitation, he selected a sleek black dress, a matching bag, and subtle jewelry that highlighted her natural beauty. Next, he brought her to his personal makeup artist, Ken. Transform her look according to tonight's party. You know your work best, Ken. Ken grinned. Got it, boss. Jungkook handed Y/N the dress and accessories. Miss Y/N, I'll be back in a few hours. I have to get ready. Too. I'll pick you up from here. When Jungkook left, Ken began his magic, styling her hair, perfecting her makeup, and letting the elegant black dress embrace her form beautifully. Meanwhile, Jungkook returned home and opened a wardrobe gifted by his late father, something he rarely touched. Inside were luxury suits, watches that cost more than cars, and ties he'd never worn. He dressed in a black sleek suit that gave him the aura of a mature, powerful man, an image far from the broken artist he once was. After 3 hours, he returned to Ken's studio, and froze. There stood Y/N, transformed. The innocent girl from the convenience store now looked like a vision, a portrait of grace and quiet strength. His jaw slightly dropped before he murmured, perfect. Y/N looked at herself in the mirror, hardly recognizing her own reflection. As they left for the party, she turned to him nervously. I've never attended such a party. I don't know what to do. I don't have any experience. And with that, they finally arrived at the grand party, the moment that would change everything. To be continued.